What in the funky disco is that?
Are you seeing me right now through that monitor in front of you?
Okay, technically yes and technically no. I mean, this video is a little old, so right now you would be anywhere, possibly on the shitter, and I don't want to have any part of that. But yeah, I only found out about you recently, but damn, if there wasn't a better fit for this channel than this gentleman. And for those of you who don't already know who this is, oh boy, just you wait. I won't spoil it. We are in for a ride today. It's gonna be good.
The answer is yes or no, and if you can't choose, you can't perceive me. You don't know whether I'm here or not.
Oh no, he has the object permanence of a baby. Someone get him a bib and a sippy cup stat before he finds out that when he covers his eyes, the universe doesn't actually disappear. I know, I was surprised too.
1 or 0, yes or no. Binary logic is something you depend on.
Someone gave him a copy of Compoopas for old people who don't like to learn things. And do we really? Perhaps for those of us who see the world in black and white, and there can only be a true or false answer to any particular question, but anyone who's got a brain and has thought about anything ever, well, they understand that life and the universe for that matter are not even remotely that simplistic. And even if someone answers something as true or false, I am sure that they would still caveat such with the fact that it's likely not that simple. Unless, again, they're a big stupid.
Without it, you can't have so much as a single perception.
Incorrect, because, put simply, you do not have to be 100% sure of something in order to know if you are comfortable thinking that it is probably true. That's actually kind of how science works. Even the most well-known facts about reality are still falsifiable. They have to be, because if you can't prove something is wrong, eventually then you're just going to end up believing for no reason. You know, like how people believe in God.
If we can base insight to God on binary logic, we got it made.
If you can say yes, God am real, or no, he don't, that's got you the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, philosopher of the fucking century right here. In fact, I am pretty sure that one time he saw the cover of Philosophy for Dummies. That's very impressive. Again, if you don't know who this is supposed to be, you won't realize just how funny all this shit is. Who said you could read the title? Get back here.
We don't need faith anymore. It's extraneous, irrelevant.
Assuming that the answer isn't, you know, there isn't one. Also, this ignores the fact that God is, in fact, unfalsifiable, at least in all forms he has been presented in the religions of man up until this point. So you can't get that binary answer you want to fuck so much anyway. Good job.
I am closer to absolute truth than any man has been before me.
You are closer to absolute truth than any man in history, are you? Wow, that is quite the statement. You want to back that up? Or was, again, your philosophy for fuckwits brand musing about logic supposed to be that? Because, well, you know, it wasn't anything really.
Do I think that makes me better than everybody else? No. I still work in a bar.
Gasp! I worked in a bar when I was in my early 20s. Does that mean I am closer to absolute truth? Well, yeah, actually, because absolute truth, it's that vodka brand, right? We had it all the time. No one drank that shit. Also, still work in a bar. I thought a man who knew more about the fundamentals of reality better than anyone else on earth would at least be working in a whiskey distillery. Goddamn. That's right, ladies and gentle bastards. This is Chris Langan, the allegedly smartest man in the world, and allegedly is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. And if you were thinking to yourself, who the fuck is Chris Langan? You aren't the only one. And if you were also thinking, smartest man in the universe, I don't think he sounds like the smartest man in a building exclusively occupied by Chris Langan and a bunch of brain-dead individuals on life support. And a rock. And the rock is a flat earther. And yeah, that's about right. How the fuck anybody came to the conclusion that he's smarter than every single person on the planet is really something else. Doesn't help that he is apparently incapable of getting a job better than I have ever done. And I actually know that I'm a fucking moron.
I was working construction during the day and I was working in a bar at night, and I happened to see a copy of Omni magazine.
Oh, look at him showing off. He has seen a magazine. And clearly, he didn't even accidentally decapitate himself with it. What a pro. Also, Darwin in the toilet. Oh, of course. The world's smartest man. I see he probably doesn't believe in evolution, does he? All those actually educated people capable of getting a job in a field that requires some level of intellect. The fact that the overwhelming majority of them understand and accept evolution and the theory that explains it. Well, this guy doesn't even know what a theory is, I bet. And that's what makes him smarter somehow. Knowledge is based on how ignorant you are, right?
It's the world's most difficult IQ test. It consists of 48 problems, some of which are extremely difficult.
The world's most difficult IQ test is, well, difficult. Isn't that just the most shonking thing you ever did hear? And meaningful, too. Also, the whole IQ thing, well, not entirely without merit. Anyone who knows all that much about IQ knows it's not actually that useful for an everyday person. And even in the places where it is used, well, there isn't really a universally accepted definition of intelligence that works across all people, making it actually really difficult to measure in any way to make it some kind of fact about a person. But in my experience, the only people who really care about it are kind of thick as shit. And if you out there in audience land are thinking to yourself, well, I care about it, and me, I'm the big smart guy, I have some bad news for you.
I think, gee, that's interesting. You know?
Not as interesting as your fucking psycho stare. What the hell, man? Can you stop that? It's like you got, what do they call it? Liar's eyes? When someone stares you down because, no, seriously, I'm not full of shit. Look how unflinching my gaze is. Unfortunately, all it really does is make you seem extremely unsettling. I suggest you, stop it.
That's interesting. I always wanted to know what my IQ was.
Well, my guess is 80 bajillion. No, you don't get to see the results or get to speak to anyone who officiated the test, and I'm not taking the test ever again to prove the results, or take a different test that can cross-reference and get more data points to show how true it is, or do basically fucking anything that someone who actually believed they were the smartest man on the fucking planet would do to make sure it was completely clear I was in fact as smart as I say I am. No, but you should believe me anyway, because look how confident I'm pretending to be. And don't you know, I read a magazine once. Well, I say read, it had nice pictures.
The verbal problems were all pretty easy, so I just breezed through them. I happen to have a larger than average vocabulary.
Of course, the vocab trick, a favourite among pseudo-intellectuals, although not demonstrated at all in this video. But you see, all you have to do is find a bunch of big words and then learn them, and where they would fit into a sentence, and boom, stupid people will think that you sound smart. The problem is, truly smart people don't need to do that. In fact, you could have a relatively small vocabulary voice and sound actually smart to people who know what smart sounds like, because it's not about the words you know or that you use, it's about the order in which you use them. And so far, your words have spelt out nothing but, I'm really insecure, and definitely not as smart as I think I am.
Really difficult ones were some of the spatial problems and the number sequences. Actually, highly difficult.
Actually, I don't even know what numbers are. Actually, I'm not even sure what these squiggly lines in books and papers I've seen everywhere are supposed to be, and what they could possibly mean. I assume that's because of how smart I am. I mean, what kind of moron can actually read? Unlike this guy, he's probably as smart as I am, and I would agree.
So, as it turned out, I ended up setting a record score on that test. The Guinness Book was actually going to switch the world's highest IQ title to me.
You did, and they were. Wow, that's amazing. I hope some extremely convenient excuse for that not happening, happened, and you can claim that that is the reason you aren't the smartest boy in a novelty book, because wouldn't that just be fucking tragic? And yeah, Guinness isn't actually a world-renowned record keeper. They make a thing that was essentially made to settle bar disputes on who the most pigs or whatever it is people talk about to other people in bars. I wouldn't know, because while I do go to them, people know better than to speak to the guy surrounded by corpses. I don't even know how they got there.
But then they dropped the highest IQ listing. IQ is not really a PC concept anymore, and I guess the Guinness Book fell victim to PC.
Oh, so that's your excuse as to why you weren't put in the Guinness Book of World Records. Of course. And there was no other body or organization that could possibly have been interested to hear about the smartest man in the fucking universe. No. And of course, it was the PC that did it, and not the fact that, again, IQ isn't actually all that simple to define and demonstrate as the highest one. And people were probably starting to realize that it's not all it's cracked up to be. Damn. Again, it is convenient though, since basically no one will ever be able to check if that's actually true and what really happened. I think there's a word for stories like that.
My IQ would be somewhere between 190 and 210.
Well, I'm not saying I don't believe you, but really, if you were as smart as you think you are, you wouldn't just tell me, you would show me. And I don't mean by pontificating about shit that you clearly don't understand in the hopes that I don't either, but actually producing things that provide value to the world. But you don't do that, and I don't think it's cause some conspiratorial nonsense about PC or whatever, but simply that you can't, because again, you simply aren't as smart as you are pretending to be. Although I'm willing to say that he's probably right about his 210 IQ, so long as you take off the 2.
210 seems very, very, very high.
Does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, it sounds like a number you made up, since as far as I can tell, most institutions that give a shit about IQ stop at above 160 or so. Seeing as anything above that, well, it's within numbers so small, it's extremely difficult to make any meaningful comparisons, because that's what IQ is. It's not really a static thing per se, it's a comparison to the people in the age range and IQ ranges, with 100 meaning essentially perfectly average. I'll be honest, I would be shocked if this guy even knew that much about it.
Albert Einstein was estimated at between 180 and 190. Charles Darwin was way down there in the toilet at 135.
Oh, of course he was, because a man who basically kick-started one of the most important and useful branches of biology, he must have been dumb as shit, even though 135 isn't dumb as shit. But frankly, I don't even know where you're getting that number, aside from, making it up, because the estimates I see, which again are to be taken with a hell of a grain of salt, but put it, shockingly, in the 160s. And again, what exactly the fuck have you done? Absolutely nothing, apart from brag about how smart you are. I have met you, or at least guys like you, so many times in my life. They quite literally, as you do, hang around in bars with a bunch of drunk dudes acting like the smartest guy in the room. And maybe they are in a room full of people who are too drunk to stand straight. But that's hardly fucking impressive. And you know what? I've also met some actually insanely smart people. I used to know this professor of a university, and I knew him through his insanely delicious dessert that he made and sold because he thought it was an interesting thing to do. Not once did he ever even think to tell me his IQ or attempt to make anyone around him feel stupid. He didn't brag about his achievements. All he did was talk about things that interested in him. And it was simply fucking obvious just how smart he was. I find that anyone, and I mean anyone who has the need to tell you just how intelligent they are, probably isn't.
Are you a genius?
Well, you're kind of putting me on the spot here, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're forcing me to either say no, in which case, it's all hype.
Hype feels generous. I mean, again, what exactly have you done? It shouldn't need to be hype, it should be kind of obvious. I mean, what do they say? Genius is 1 part inspiration, 9 parts perspiration. That was Thomas Edison, I believe, who wasn't a perfect person, but that's a pretty solid point. It is saying it doesn't really matter how smart you are if you don't do anything with it. You're about as useful as the rest of the morons pottering about. And I don't think that's fair. At least most morons don't sit there banging on and on and on about how smart they are like anyone gives a shit. Wait, they do? Even though he hasn't fucking done anything. Christ, that's depressing.
Or you're forcing me to say yes. I'll say probably, yes, I am a genius. By most of the criteria, the definitive criteria of genius, I think you'd have to consider me a genius, yeah.
The definitive criteria of being a genius. Well, it's funny you say that because literally the first thing that comes up when you look up the criteria for genius, it says there kinda isn't one, which is funny enough on its own. But then it goes into things that you would potentially expect of a genius, which is along the lines of someone with a wealth of originality, creativity, and the ability to imagine or think in new ways and areas. And perhaps you do fit into that, if you count lying as a form of genius. Unfortunately, I don't think that most people do. I think that's actually known as being full of shit.
the age of 6 or 7 months, I started pointing at objects and giving their correct names.
Well, unless you pointed at a mirror and shouted, "Dipshit, dipshit," I'm not sure I believe you. And again, do you have anything to back that up? Any assessments? And no, your parents telling you that you totally did that doesn't count. Parents lie to their children about how smart they are all the time, which is a terrible idea, by the way, because that will more than likely do one of two things to them. Cause them to stress out because anytime they aren't magically ahead of their peers, they're gonna feel like they're failing you, or cause them to be a giant dickhead who thinks that they're smarter than literally everyone else, with no ability to back it up. Oh yeah, right.
Little red pair of shoes with little brass buckles on them that I really loved. And I thought that buckle was a beautiful word, so I pointed to the buckle on one of these shoes and said, "Buckle."
What the fuck? Is that supposed to be meaningful in some way? It isn't, by the way. They move on directly from it and don't address it again. And how the hell do you know what the thought process of 6-month-old you was? Because I'll be honest, I don't believe you have any idea, even if that did happen. Also, the goddamn music. You always know something is probably bullshit when they use the "oh wow, isn't this amazing" music. Things that are actually amazing don't need emotionally manipulative music in order to make people think that. You know, it's almost like the only amazing thing about you is how utterly unremarkable you are as a human being. Well done.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. Nope, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the